Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm here to talk about the PlayStation Bungie acquisition. This is a very weird one in all accounts and regards when you compare it to everything that Microsoft has been doing, and also an incredibly confusing one. I wanted to make a video on this as soon as it happened, but the problem was that I was so confused by this acquisition and what was actually going on with it that I intentionally said no and delayed making a video because I wanted to wait for more information to come out on it first. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. So on January 31st of 2022, as you guys can see here, Sony and Bungie both announced that obviously Sony was going to be sitting there and that they were going to be purchasing the entire studio of Bungie. They are purchasing them for a grand total of $3.6 billion. Now, this is where I got a little confused on this, because as I was scrolling through and I was looking through it, and you guys can see it here now, they are not looking to make anything exclusive with Destiny whatsoever, so it only relates back to Sony. So everything that everything that Bungie has produced and that Destiny is obviously sitting there and doing is going to remain across every single platform with multi-platform play, and so on and so forth. Now, Sony is known for like doing very aggressive exclusive deals, such as like timed exclusives and like all this other stuff. And don't get me wrong, Microsoft is kind of in a similar boat, although Microsoft in the recent years has made it very clear that their objective is to stop all exclusive like contracts and deals across the board. The only reason that they're potentially making some of the new Bethesda games exclusive is actually as a giant fuck you to Sony, because they were trying to bid out the rights for Elden Ring, which is a new FromSoft Souls-like game that's coming out here soon. They were trying to bid out the rights on it to make it a timed exclusive, and Microsoft told them do not do this. Then Microsoft came in, gave them a bigger offer to literally make it across all platforms, and then turned around and gave Sony the middle finger by making some of the Bethesda games exclusive, pretty much playing their hand and trying to make them understand like, hey, I'm the big boy in charge here, alright? And Sony's over here all like, fuck are you, Microsoft? The thing that I find weird about this entire acquisition is that Bungie only owns one IP to my entire knowledge, and that's just the Destiny IP. When they split from Microsoft after making Halo Reach, Microsoft and Bungie obviously negotiated that Microsoft would keep all of the previous IPs, to my knowledge. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but they made an agreement that they would keep all previous IPs, such as Halo, and then some of their other games, such as Myst, and so on and so forth, and they never had anything else except Destiny. Obviously, Bungie then went to Activision, which I find very ironic that Bungie literally bought their way out of Activision using the Destiny funds, and then Activision got acquired by Microsoft, which if they would have actually stayed, it's very funny to think that Bungie would have ended up right back under Microsoft in a very roundabout way. But my point with this is that because they only have the Destiny IP, I don't understand how one game can justify the massive amount of like games and entertainment that Microsoft has sat there and acquired, much less how one game, they basically are saying that Destiny is worth 3.6 billion. I don't see it, and I've been trying to find annual reports so I could show you guys that obviously like, hey, this is what Bungie's bringing in, this is the grand totals and everything else, and I can't. I cannot find accurate, good reporting on what Bungie is actually bringing in each and every single year. The best I was able to find was this one report here that believes that they have brought in a grand total of 300 million in revenue, because that's what was reported on Activision's side. It's a loss of total revenue because of Bungie leaving back in 2019. Now, I need you to understand something. Revenue does not mean profit. You have to factor out so many things in that entire number. Revenue, it means that is everything that they have basically brought in, and as soon as it gets calculated out, now you have to shuffle it out towards taxes, you have to shuffle it out towards employee paychecks, you have to shuffle it out towards fees and maintenance, and development costs. You have to shuffle it out towards server maintenance. That 300 million may sound like a lot. It's not. That's not the profit of the company. That's just the total revenue that it brought in. And based off those numbers, if we sit there and if we look at how long it would take Sony to make their money back off of Destiny because of the fact that they're not looking to make it exclusive. In fact, it's like they bought the studio and fully intend to just leave them the fuck alone, which I have no problem with. I want to point this out. There's nothing wrong with doing that. My concern here, or I guess my question is, how the hell did they expect to make their money back in a 10-year, like, long-term spread? Because here's the thing, right? They are buying that company for $3.6 billion. They are basically just buying the Destiny IP and nothing else. What it becomes very, very bizarre to me is that if you just do the math on it, 3.6 bill divided by 10, assuming 10 years of time, means that Bungie needs to bring in $360 million in profit to Sony each and every single year, just for them to potentially have a 10% like return on their investment, and in 10 years it would be completely paid off. But that's not the case here. They only, in 2019, they only brought in 300 million total, which just makes me scratch my head and go, huh? Like, this has to be the most confusing acquisition. Like, I mean, check this out, right? Check out this graph here showing everything that Microsoft has acquired over the course of the time, over all of the money that they've sat there and spent. You have the Xbox Game Studios, which obviously consists of like Mojang, 343, Obsidian, the Coalition, Ninja Theory, so on and so forth. Oh, Double Fine, that's another big one that a lot of people would know. Then you have the Bethesda one, which includes the Bethesda software, ZeniMax, ID Studios, which are the makers of Doom and everything else, and some of the lesser known ones there. Then you have Activision Blizzard. They have all of Blizzard Entertainment, which is just disgustingly huge, how many IPs and games and potential revenue that they're bringing in on that. And then they have King, which was the creator of Candy Crush, one of the biggest possible like games for mobile that you've ever had, and middle-aged like single moms are playing it everywhere. Then you look over here and you see Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Ravenhead Studios, which are all, and Sledgehammer Games too, I'm sorry, which are all the creators of the Call of Duties, as well as some of the lesser known ones, like Toys for Bob and High Noon Studios. Dude, that's massive. That is a massive coalition. Sony is just getting Destiny and the name of Bungie and no exclusives, because right now is a terrible time to try to fuck with Microsoft and try to do any kind of exclusive bullshit, because the thing is that as soon as you try, guess what Microsoft's going to do? They're going to give you the big middle finger. They're going to pull the rug out from under you, and all these other games are all of a sudden going to become exclusives. And it just... It's maddening to me. It is absolutely maddening that they spent so much. It's not the acquisition that bothers me. What really bothers me here is the amount that's paid. How could you possibly value just Destiny in that much of a regard? Like, you can look at Activision Blizzard's like performance reports and everything else like that. In fact, I'll pull that up here real quick. Give me a sec. Okay, here we go. So I got the numbers now. So if you remember in my previous video, I talked about how Activision Blizzard is being purchased by Microsoft for 68.7 billion, right? Now, Microsoft will be looking to potentially make their total amount of money back based off the revenue. Again, we're going off total revenue that Activision Blizzard brought in back in 2019, because I want to do the same numbering, even though it's not 100% accurate. Back in 2019, they sat there and they brought in $8.086 billion in total revenue, which means that obviously if that was all profit, Microsoft would be looking to make their money back in the neighborhood of at least 8 years if that was total profit. Now let's extend that out. Let's assume all the fees, maintenance, development costs, taxes, employee paychecks, all that obviously gets factored in. It's a pretty hefty amount. They'd at least be looking at making their money back with the current standing company in at least 12 years. That's based off the revenue numbers. Bungie has not even brought in the 10-year cap rate numbers that we were talking about in total revenue. They didn't even bring it in that capacity, in that amount, which just makes this entire transaction confusing. Like, I've talked about this here and there, and I'm not going to get into it in this video because honestly, I have to get my business partner involved, and he can really talk about this situation way better than I can. But I personally do not understand how financially the Sony game division has remained afloat. Like, with some of the god-awful, terrible decisions they make as a company and the anti-consumer practices that they do, it's really crazy to me that they are still a company. But that's besides the point. That's for another video, another time, if you guys even care about that. What blows my mind with this entire acquisition is, what is Sony getting? Like, that's really my biggest question here. Like, what are they getting? They're not getting the Halo franchise. They're only getting Destiny, and Bungie is being remain completely autonomous and are being left to their own devices. So for them, they're gonna put Destiny on every single platform they possibly can, including a refrigerator if humanly possible. Like, what is Sony getting out of this deal? That's what's so bizarre and confusing to me, and where I just don't understand where the idea is, because they're not going to make their money back from this acquisition in 10 plus years. There's no way, unless they force Bungie to develop a game that's an exclusive for just PlayStation to help boost up console sales, as well as also sit there and increase their revenue across the board for them in doing so. But the thing is that if they do that, then they're clearly not leaving the company autonomous. They're forcing the company to develop and make games for them, and that defeats the whole purpose of what we're talking about here, which is how it's being presented. So either one or two things is going on here. Either somebody is lying about what's going on with this acquisition and what's actually supposed to be happening to not try to create a stir and panic, or really is a dumb business transaction. And I'll leave that up for you guys to decide, because mathematically, this transaction makes absolutely no sense. They are not getting the plethora of IPs and the plethora of games and the incredible amount of revenue that Microsoft is getting out of Activision Activision Blizzard, which totally makes sense in that regard for their acquisition there. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I mean, obviously, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe there'll be more information that gets released out later on down the road that'll make a lot more sense on this entire acquisition and what's actually going on here. But as of right now, the numbers don't make sense. And quite frankly, I was even asked by an investor friend of mine who's invested in my company. He told me if I had $1 million right now, free and clear, like no loan on it, nothing, would I buy Bungie and just Destiny right now? And I hesitated. And he was like, see, that's the problem. If you're hesitating at the thought of 1 million free and clear for them, he's like, yeah, see, because you hesitated just on 1 million free and clear, what the hell do you think Sony is doing with 3.6 for them? And I was like, that's 3.6 billion, sorry. And I'm just like, I have to agree with you. I really just do not understand. So anyway, this has been Rex Vladimir. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is me not buying Destiny and signing out. Peace.